Good evening. How's everyone doing this evening?
Good evening, sir.
Good, good. I trust that everyone had a good Labor Day weekend.
Yes, sir.
Very nice.
That's great. That's great. That's great. It's so good to see the infamous Barry Thorpe with us today. Good to see you, Barry. Thank you for being on hand. Okay. Where's the feed? I'm getting some feedback.
Me too.
Hey, how you doing?
Hey, Bear, how are you?
Good.
Good.
Mr. Chairman, Barry will likely be muting everybody at times throughout the meeting just to make sure we don't have that feedback.
Okay, very good. That's good. That's good. That's good. That's good. I believe everybody's present and on hand. So, is everybody ready to move to the meeting?
Yes, sir.
All right. Mr. Speed, I believe you are in tasked with giving us our season of prayer.
Let us pray. Dear Heavenly Father, thank you for this day and our many blessings. Please guide and direct us to conduct our business as to be honorable to you. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen. Amen. Amen. I'd like to call this meeting of the Franklin County Board of County Commissioners to order. We ask that you would please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance to the flag. If Barry would put that up for us. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right. Right. All right. We'll have our roll call now.
I think we lost Commissioner Jones.
Did we lose Mr. Jones?
I don't see him on my screen.
Mr. Jones, are you in the house? All right. Well, hopefully, do you see him, Barry?
I do not see him.
Okay. Okay, we'll proceed with our roll call. Ms. Dickerson?
Here.
Okay. Mr. Shriver?
Here.
Mr. Speed?
Here.
Mr. Bunn?
Here.
Mr. Foy?
Here.
And Mr. Jones, if you can hear us. Okay. First item on our agenda is the consent agenda. What's your pleasure?
Move for approval.
Second.
It's been moved by Mr. Speed and second by Mr. Bunn, I believe. Is that correct?
Yes.
All right. We have a roll call vote. Ms. Dickerson? Ms. Dickerson? Ms. Dickerson? Okay.
She needs to be unmuted.
Derek, can you unmute?
Yes, I'm trying.
Okay.
I asked to unmute, so I think she can if she wants to.
Ms. Dickerson?
I've lost her video from her video too. It's not showing up on my screen either. Just so.
Ms. Dickerson? Can you hear us? All right. Well, we dropping like flies here, Barry. I don't know. If you lost. Ms. Dickerson? All right. Mr. Shriver?
Yes.
All right. Mr. Speed?
Yes.
Mr. Jones, are you here with us? Mr. Budd?
Yes.
Mr. Ford?
Yes.
I vote yes, and the yes has it, and it is so ordered. All right. Next item on our agenda is item number 2, is our consent agenda. I'm sorry, is our comments from the public. It's time set aside by the Board of Commissioners to allow individuals to address the board on issues concerning the county. We have, I believe, if I'm correct, Madam Clerk 2, who signed in for public comment.
That is correct. And Mr. Frank Winstead is first.
All right, very good. All right, Mr. Winstead, Mr. Frank Winstead, if you would chime in and give us your name and your address, please.
He's muted.
Hello? Hello?
Hello, Mr. Winstead.
Hello?
Yes,
Yes.
Mr.
This is, can you hear me?
Is this Mr. Winstead?
Yes.
Yes, go right ahead, Mr. Winstead. Give us your name and address, please.
Thank you. This is Frank Winstead, 145 Victoria Court, Youngsville, North Carolina, 27596, 7739-45. Good evening, all. $90 an hour for an intern is in a proposed contract to be paid for by the poor working folks of Franklin County through their extremely high and burdensome taxes. I happened to notice this on page 39 of 40 in tonight's hard-to-find agenda packet. This is the proposed contract for updating the Unified Development Ordinance. The median household yearly income in Franklin County is under $49,000. Doing the math, all the income from 4 working households in Franklin County would be needed to pay for this intern. And how much of that billable hourly rate is that intern actually paid, if they're paid? But don't worry about the intern not putting in a full day's work for the money. Of the other 12 job titles listed, all of which are paid far, far more than the intern, 5 are managers, and then above them is a principal in charge who is billed at twice the intern's outrageous rate. Seems like a lot of money for copy and pasting lines of text from one Word document to another. But don't worry too much about typos. I bet the good folks over at Old Liberty are going to be watching this process very carefully, because a misplaced squiggly little line on the land use map or a slight change in a definition could turn serene agricultural land into an unwanted asphalt jungle. And the water lawyers will be watching also to see how much more non-existent county water will be needed and or promised to meet all the land use changes. When speaking of the hardworking taxpaying folks of Franklin County, enriching people who live down in Wake County, this always makes me think of the Franklin County Health Department. According to the Franklin County Register of Deeds, death certificate filings from January 1st to September 7th of this year, 4 fewer, I repeat, 4 fewer people have died in the county compared to the same time last year. And for the benefit of any Franklin County employee listening who happens to live in Wake County, there have been 35 fewer death certificates filed there in Wake County in 2020 as compared to 2019. Have a better night, y'all. Bye-bye.
Mr. Austin, Dennis Austin. Mr. Austin, are you on board? Mr. Austin, if you can hear us, would you give us your name and your address, please? Barry, do we see Mr. Austin in place?
I do not see a Austin.
Okay. Mr. Jones, welcome back. We lost you there for a while.
Yeah, what happened? But I'm back.
All right.
Mr. Chairman, Mr. Austin shared a cell phone number with us as well, 495-1232. Barry, if you see that phone number.
Do not see that number.
And his email address is mf4800@netzero.net. Okay.
Okay. So I'm assuming that Mr. Austin is not aboard. That being the case, we will move to item number 3, which is an update on COVID-19. So Scott Levine. It's Mr. Levine.
Yeah,
Okay.
he's coming.
Okay.
Okay, that took a minute. I'm here. Thanks for your patience. I'm just going to quickly go through the statewide numbers, break it down to Franklin County, update everyone on a few of the bigger initiatives that are coming and that have already started. And then, as always, the summary of this report is what I'm giving tonight in verbal format, and I will forward a written copy of the more detailed report tomorrow. Currently, today we saw a huge decrease in the number of cases reported in North Carolina. It came in at only 716 new cases. Normally I'd be really excited about that, but I also notice, and you'll see in the report, I've shown that there's been a concomitant and correlation in the huge drop off in the number of tests. To give you an idea, we went from 36,000 tests on September 4th to less than 9,000 recorded on the 8th. So we're just slowing down because of the long weekend. I expect that will increase. Prior to that, we were leveling off across the state at a right around the 1,000 new cases per day for about the last 4 days, until the last 4 days. That is not too bad. However, when the governor went into and announced phase 2.5 going into effect this past Friday, and I'm going to mute or decrease my volume on my computer.
Mr. Foy and Mr. Speed, would you mute, please?
The governor went to announce 2.5 reopening phase on Friday. It went into effect at 5 p.m. Previous announcements of phase changes prior to long weekends, such as Memorial Day and July 4th, resulted in huge spikes in cases about 2 to 3 weeks later. So we are anticipating that this will be the same, especially after looking at some of the pictures that were posted of a lot of events occurring. Currently, the state is at about a 6.2% positivity rate for all of the cases that are tested. That's actually getting closer to 5, which is what we're really trying to get below as a good threshold. Prior to the 6.2, right now we're fluctuating between 6 and 8% as a state. 827 were hospitalized today, although I will tell you that number will likely go up. There are some problems with the hospital reporting system, and they're trying to work that out. So look for that number to go up a little bit. It's been coming in at the upper 800s to lower 900s, occasionally flirting with 1,000 a day. for quite a while now, and we expect it dropped down yesterday to 765 up to 827. We expect it'll go up a little bit more after that. The getting back to Franklin County, we have now a total of 1,120 confirmed positive cases, and that's currently a little over 9 new cases a day that we've been getting since August 21st. One important note is that it only took us 30 days to double our total cases for the pandemic. And we're hoping that we can slow that trend down a little bit more. Unfortunately, we're coming in right now with a 9% positivity rate for the cases or for the tests that we do in Franklin County of Franklin County residents. That is well above the state's rate of 6.2. In terms of the age breakdown, still coming in 13% in the 0 to 17 category and 11% in the 18 to 24. Fortunately, we're seeing a decrease in the number of seniors 65 and over that are coming in with a positive test, and that's a promising sign. I do have that the unfortunate responsibility report that since I've last spoken to you, there's been 2 more deaths. Both of those were tied to an outbreak at the Southern Living Assisted Facility, Assisted Living Facility. So we're now at 30 total deaths so far for the virus in Franklin County. The big news obviously was Governor Cooper's moving into phase 2.5. Big differences between 2 and 2.5 are that it increases the number of people that can be allowed in indoor gatherings to 25. Outdoor gatherings can be up to 50. Playgrounds are allowed to reopen. Museums and aquariums are allowed to open at 50% capacity.
Mr. Levine.
Can't hear him. No.
Mr. Levine.
Bowling alleys.
Mr. Levine. Mr. Levine.
30% capacity is 10.
Mr. Levine. Mr. Levine. Mr. Levine.
Gatherings, funeral ceremonies, wedding ceremonies.
Is anyone here to the attention, Barry?
Gathering limits are still face covering rules.
Just give him some time.
I think he got his volume turned down too.
Contacts.
Mr. Levine.
Let's see, we've decreased over the past 14 days some of the contacts tracing that we've had to do, but with our positivity rate at 9%, we're anticipating there will be an uptick in that. As I mentioned the last time, we have brought on state contact tracers to help us complete some of that. We're still seeing a significant number of people that are not reporting who their contacts were, and that definitely is slowing our ability to slow the spread in the county. I'm just going to go through, I've already talked about, at present, we have
Mr. Levine.
1 outbreak in the county. The Southern Living Assisted Living outbreak actually will be finishing or has finished shortly. The Franklin Correctional Center in Bunn, they have 13 total cases, no reported fatalities. And that's it for outbreaks. For clusters, that's defined as 5 or more cases at a business or an organization. We have currently no clusters in Franklin County. All the ones that we previously had have finished. Hopefully we can maintain that.
Mr. Levine.
And Lewisburg College reopened to students. They started with a gradual reintroduction of students on the 20th and right
Mr. Levine.
And
Mr.
since
Levine.
that time period, our clinic on site has only seen 1 college student.
Mr. Levine.
And let's see, I think that's about it. We continue to advise them about some of their concerns related to testing, isolation, and quarantine requirements, and providing them with resources as well.
Mr. Levine. Mr.
In terms
Levine.
of referrals to various programs for students.
Mr. Levine. Mr.
In
Levine.
terms of school reopening, the school district continues at their
Mr. Levine.
Plan C, which is remote learning option. As I noted the last time, the 2 charter schools in Franklin County moved forward with a Plan B in-person option. And that continues. So far, so good with all of that. To date, we have no reported clusters at any Franklin County School District school or either charter school. So that's a very good sign. The last thing I'll talk about is drive-through testing and testing overall. We have been actively engaged with getting ready for the eventual development and deployment of a vaccine for COVID-19. We are looking at being able to use our drive-through testing and the information that we've garnered from that in terms of our COVID-19 testing to do a test run with flu vaccinations. And we will be looking to do that sometime within the next 2 to 3 weeks. When we do that and offer those, we're going to be looking at both a site in Lewisburg, and we're currently looking at a site in Franklinton with an eye towards being able to use that now for flu vaccines, but recognizing that we need a site that can hold a significant number of people driving through. Large parking lot, good entrance, good exits, and a huge line that'll allow us to do drive-through testing in a safe and responsible, or drive-through vaccinations in a safe and responsible way. The one thing that's been concerning is that some of the vaccines under development that are in phase 3 right now require storage temperatures that we currently don't have the capacity to maintain. So we are working with the state, hopefully, to be able to do and be able to store those effectively. To give you an idea, they have to be stored at negative 112 Fahrenheit. So we currently don't have the ability to do that here. So we're working with the state, hopefully coming up with some good ideas on how to deploy that. I want to thank Dr. Metter, who's our chair of the Board of Health and vice chair, and Greg Bethay, the Franklinton town manager, has been really good at helping us nail down some possible sites in Franklinton. The last thing I'll say is that it is flu season. It will soon be upon us. I am encouraging everyone to get a flu vaccine this year. We are really trying to roll out that initiative. The main reason is that with hospital capacity already somewhat strained with COVID-19, we do not need to add flu and flu hospitalizations to that mix. So everybody that is able to, we're encouraging you to get a flu vaccine. Are there any questions?
Yeah, Mr. Levine, can you hear me? Mr. Levine, can you hear me?
I muted it, sorry. Go ahead.
Can you hear me?
Yes, now I can.
Well, unfortunately, we only heard about a third of what you said. Okay, let me ask you a question just for me.
Yep.
Is someone in the room with you?
Nope.
Is there a reason why you mask up to make this?
Yep. Because I'm at work. And when you're at work, and in the health department, you wear a mask when you're here, regardless of whether or not there's somebody in the room. Main reason is that when I'm talking and trying to talk loudly, I can set droplets into the air, which can land on the table. They may not evaporate until the morning.
It's not good, Mr. Levine. It's not good for you. It's not good for you reporting to us because we don't know what you're saying.
Okay. Is this better?
I'm sorry.
Not better. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I'm not sure what's going on.
Well, we need to get a report from you. Okay. We like to know what you're saying. But I've been calling you, but you haven't been responding to me.
Well,
Mr. Chairman, if I could interject just briefly, we need to make sure that all of us have our computers muted because he's receiving feedback, which is what's causing him to mute his speakers. And
Yes.
so if we all keep ourselves muted, then he shouldn't have a problem and he should be able to hear us. And then I think if he speaks a little closer to the microphone, we should be okay.
Okay.
Yeah, I got a question.
Me too.
Mhm.
Yeah, me three. Yeah.
Go ahead, Mr. Ford.
Okay. Hey, I know I keep on getting muted every 5 seconds, and I have to keep on hitting that mute button to get it where you can hear me if need be. And then my only other question for our health director was, you say you're going to be doing flu shots, the health department? Are you going around different county offering that to different locations, free flu shots, or?
We do have a certain amount of free flu vaccine available. We have 300 doses that we got in. So we should have enough for people that can't afford. I know that there's a lot of other options there too. But yes, we are looking at providing at our location here And then also in a location in Franklinton. And if other people are interested, we'd be happy to look at alternative sites. Keep in mind, the main reason that the county health department is looking to do this is not so much for necessarily the impact of the flu vaccine. We're looking at it primarily to kill two birds with one stone. We can increase the number of people that have access to the flu vaccine. And second, we can help ourselves get a dry run at a location and for our practices so that we're a well-oiled machine when it comes time to dispensing the COVID-19 vaccine. So that's what we're looking for.
Okay, and you said you have to be just people that can't afford them.
That's our primary target. That's correct.
Okay.
I have a question.
Mr. Jones?
Yes, sir. Mr. Lane, you talk a lot about numbers with death tolls and infections. Do you have a number on the people that recovered in Franklin County?
No, I don't. And you know, you can estimate, and that's the best you can do. There is no medical diagnosis called recovered from COVID-19. You can reach a point where there is no longer detectable virus, but most people are not getting tested in order to substantiate that. So when you say recovered, what it ultimately is they look at when you were originally either showed symptoms or received your positive test, and they count out 14 days. And that's how other places are getting to the recovered classification. Right now, you know, you can do the math. We're getting around 9 cases a day. So if you go back 14 days, you can get an idea of how many people currently have it right now, multiplied by anywhere from 6 to 24, depending on the estimate. I tend to go more conservative with just the 6. Why do you multiply it by 6? Because there's a lot of people that we don't test and ever test. So that's probably a more accurate idea of how many people currently have it.
So the numbers we see on the news about recoveries are just numbers?
Yeah,
They don't mean anything?
that's just an estimate of 14 days after somebody tested positive, 14 days later, they're recovered. That's all that is.
So you don't have Franklin County at all about those numbers at all either?
No. And quite honestly, it gives people a false sense of security because I can only report what I know. I can't report what I guess or estimate based on prevalence data. Estimates on prevalence data say, okay, 6 times 14, and then multiply, I'm sorry, 9 times 14 multiplied by 6 gives you an idea of how many people right now in Franklin County have tested positive, okay? And times 9 is how many are positive right now. And then times 6 is how many people actually may have it, but just aren't getting tested. And we have a number of people that have refused to be tested. So, you know, the numbers are at best they're not a representation of the true prevalence in the community.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Any other questions, Mr. Levine?
I have one. I was told in the last week or so that once you go through the 14-day, Mr. Levine, that you could actually take another test, but most likely you would still test positive. Is that true? I mean, are we seeing any of that, or?
There are some people that have continued to test positive, and the main reason they're able to do that is if you give the nose swab, which is what we're using, that picks up RNA. It's testing for, think of it as debris left over from virus. It can be live virus, it can be dead virus, but it's virus debris. That's what it's looking for. So it's a crude instrument, but it does tell you if you've got it. People have been able to test positive. We've got a couple people that are still testing positive 6 weeks out after initial test. Do they still have active virus? No, they don't, but they still have virus residue still left in them. Are they able to transmit that to somebody else? No, it's not transmissible or infectable, but it is possible. There's also, I've seen some pre-publication studies, one that did go to print that talks about documented cases of individuals having tested positive for COVID, having subsequently gotten negative tests, numerous, and then come back and retested, in some cases, anywhere from 8 to 6 to 12 weeks later, and tested positive again. And when they've done the analysis, they found different strains. So, you know, there's no guarantee. What we're usually doing is we like to do an antibody test to see where they're at in the disease progression. That's good to tell you if you've been exposed, and if you're no longer infectious. It's a nice piece. It's a blood test, a little more expensive, but it's something that we would recommend for people if they've had it.
Thank you.
Anybody else? All right, thank you so much, Mr. Levine.
Oh, I apologize for the problems with the audio.
All right, no problem. Now we ask everybody to mute yourselves because of the feedback until you're ready to speak. Now, when you're ready to speak, unmute yourself then. But if you're not speaking, please put yourself on mute. All right. Item number 4 on our agenda is the Unified Development Ordinance. Board of Commissioners allotted $125,000 within the current budget for updates to use to the UDO, which are required as a part of the recent state legislation. Is who's presenting that? Is Mr. Hammerbacher?
Yes, sir. That will be Mr. Hammerbacher.
Okay, is he present?
Barry's bringing him on right now.
Okay.
Hello there. Good evening.
Hello, Mr. Hammerbacher. Good to see you.
All right. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, sir. Hear you very well.
You couldn't see me, but I'm sorry y'all have to put up with my ugly face. So anyway, Barry, I'm going to go ahead and try to share my screen. I have a short presentation.
Okay, go ahead.
All right. So Commissioner Dunston, or Chairman Dunston, touched on a lot of this. Basically, where we stand right now within our current UDO, it was last adopted on October 8th, 2001. Throughout the years, as many of you are aware, we've made amendments to that ordinance to make compliance with state law changes. And also, I'd like to note that sometimes we have found deficiencies or where things just didn't quite intended or work as the way we had intended, and we had made those changes. Within the current budget, we've been allotted $125,000 for updates to our Unified Development Ordinance, as recommended within our Comprehensive Development Plan. On another note from that, this year we have seen substantial changes within our enabling legislation affected with basically specifically 160D, which is necessitating every community with basically any type of land use regulations to substantially amend their current ordinances and have those amended ordinances in place by July 1 of 2021. So I'm not going to go over all this, but just to cite our comprehensive development plan, one of the things bullet point number 2 notes is to strengthen the Unified Development Ordinance, which is one of the most effective tools to employ in implementing the comprehensive development plan. Some of the other suggestions which I take note of are ease of use, modernization of language, things such as that. In looking at our current UDO, I would say admittedly, it's not the most user-friendly regulatory document we have. It's often hard for the public to navigate and some of our new staff. And so we were hoping to have something that implements the comprehensive development plan, but a UDO that the average layperson can pick up and make rhyme or reason out of and be able to find what they're looking for. Certainly staff, as we've always have been, are going to be there to assist them. But we're looking for something that is much more user-friendly, graphics intensive, that has cross-references throughout. I don't want to bore you with all of that, but we want something that's a little bit more modern than what we have today, considering that, our current UDO is, almost 20 years old, shy of a month. It is in need of a substantial overhaul. So we began this process on June 1 of the current year with RFQs due by June 19th. We did receive 5 different submittals from Withers and Ravenel, who's done work within the county, Holland Consulting Planners, who did our previous UDO and comprehensive plan, John R. McAdams, who's done work out at Owens Park, and Stewart Engineering, who were actually the runner-up for our comprehensive plan. So we had an informal committee comprised of particularly the assistant county manager, public utilities, economic development, and we did have input from our board of commissioners to look at the proposals. Stewart has been recommended for you this evening based on their project experience in the last 5 years. We followed up on that, looked at their work, and we found that to be satisfactory in what we were looking for. Another key component of this is really their project approach was robust. The way they anticipated meeting with the development community, local landowners, just to be able to have as highly effective communication strategy as we can have going through a process such as this. And then also just the approach that they had submitted to us aligned with what was recommended within the comprehensive development plan. So this evening, I'm asking for this board to consider allowing staff to proceed with a contract in the amount of $118,250 to get basically Stewart under contract to overhaul our current UDO. Be happy to answer any questions you may have at this time.
Are there any questions?
Yes, I have some.
Yes, sir. Go ahead.
Okay, what was the prices that were submitted, the bids? I never did see that part.
This was a RFQ, so it was based on qualifications. It was not, we did not seek this out to the lowest bidder. Many of the applicants did submit, what their work or similar work, what they had charged folks. But that was not the process we used. We tried to bring in the most qualified individual or entity to complete this project, and it was not based on price.
Other questions?
Wait a minute, I'm trying to unmute here. So why can't I know what the prices were? Is that secret or what? I mean,
No, sir, it's not a secret. Stewart did not, or no one submitted a price specifically to Franklin County. They submitted within their submittals. They did include some of them for based on similar projects, what the costs were. But for professional services, we did not go through that route of trying to seek the lowest qualified bidder.
I guess what I'm asking is just, I just like to see the prices. I mean, but that's not possible. I mean,
No, I mean, I can get you a copy of the submittals. They can submit the prices, what they provide for similar work. But I will preface that is that, when you're looking at those, you're not necessarily comparing apples to apples.
well, why would you bid it out to 5 different companies? I mean, something doesn't make sense. But anyway, if you could later on let me see them prices, I'd love to see them.
Certainly,
That's all right. I mean,
sir. But it was a request for qualifications. Within that, we're looking for the most qualified firm, not necessarily the cheapest firm. So that's why we did not go for a request for proposals. Typically, when we have, we're building a new sewer line or a new road, at that point in time, we follow that process of seeking lowest qualified bidder. But when we're looking at professional services, that was not a determining factor within this. But I will work with the county manager's office to get you the submittals we have so you can review those. We'll have that out there by the end of the week to you, sir.
and I have one more question. Why can't this other company that we've already got working for us do this work? The one that we passed 9-10 months ago, doing the UDO, the comprehensive development.
Well,
Why can't they do this? I mean,
that firm was McGill Engineering, and they did not submit a proposal. So they didn't bid this project.
all right. So I'm still a little bit lost on this. Like, how's this going to make things that we have right now, like it is right now, and how's it going to change it to when they get done? I'd like to see what we're going to get for all this money.
I mean, within that, basically, we're going to have first and foremost, we're going to have a unified development ordinance that is compliant with current state law. The second major component of that is we are, after going through the process of spending over $150,000 or $160,000 on our comprehensive plan, they are going to help enact that within this unified development ordinance.
Any other questions? If there are no other questions, then we've been asked to approve the contract with Stewart Engineering to provide updates to the Unified Development Ordinance in the amount of $118,250. What's the pleasure of the board?
Motion to approve, Mr. Chairman.
Motion by Mr. Shriver to approve. Second by Ms. Dickerson. Any other questions? If there are no other questions, we'll call the roll. Ms. Dickerson?
Yes.
Mr. Shriver?
Yes.
Mr. Speed?
Yes.
Mr. Jones?
Yes.
Mr. Bunn?
Yes.
Mr. Ford?
No.
And I will vote yes. Yeses have it, and it is so ordered. Thank you so much, Mr. Hammerbacher.
Thank you and have a good evening.
Thank you, sir. You as well. Item number 5 on our agenda is other business. Is there any other business?
I got one item.
All right.
Yes. A while back, we passed a resolution calling for a public referendum for this November 3rd in regards to the Sunday sales of alcohol. I want to make sure that's still on go for November 3rd. Anybody here can help me?
Is that helping? I'm not sure what you're talking about. Sunday
Yeah,
sales.
we
November
said-
3rd is not a Sunday.
We called for a public referendum on November 3rd to whether we start selling alcohol at 10 o'clock a.m. on Sunday mornings or noontime. It was my understanding we were going to put it up for a public vote coming this November. I don't know how much clearer I can make it than that, but does nobody here have any remembrance of that, or?
Is there anyone else?
I remember it. We were talking about allowing sales on Sunday before 12, and we did, to my knowledge, we made it a motion, and we put it to a vote, and it passed. It was quite a while ago, but I don't remember exactly when.
It was in correlation with the, I believe they called it the brunch bill that the General Assembly had passed authorizing counties to do that. I think Ms. Harris can speak to it more. I'll allow her the time to do so.
I believe so. And I see that our attorney is muted, but he was going to explore that with the Board of Elections Director. Commissioner Shriver is correct. It was in connection with the brunch bill. And we can search the minutes to see the exact motion that was on the table. But Mr. Tomlinson, do you have any comment in reference to the research that was done and the work with the Board of Elections Director? And Kristen, would you research the minutes very quickly?
I don't remember the exact format of the motion. I remember it was discussed. And quite frankly, Mr. Foy, I hadn't thought about it since then. I'm not sure what the status was. I was remembering the alcohol, the sale of mixed drinks, specifically down in Bunn, and the work we did on that. But I don't think it was any legal matters that needed to be done. It's just whether or not it's going to be put on the board, on the agenda for the November election. But I can get back, I'll get with Kristen and get the actually what was passed and see what has to be done other than just put it on the ballot.
Mr. Chairman, I'm looking back quickly through the minutes, and I believe Mr. Foy brought this up in October of 2017. And then I see on November 20th of 2017 in the time where the board made their reports, Commissioner Foy asked staff for follow-up on his suggestion for the public to weigh in on its feelings about the brunch bill. County Attorney Pete Tomlinson stated there is no provision for the board to ask the public to weigh in or vote on a decision the board is tasked to make. And that's what the minutes reflect.
Okay.
So the answer is no public referendum for this general election coming up.
It would be needed.
Excuse me now?
It is not needed. It's up to this board to vote on it. However, I think you could put on the ballot whether they would favor or not favor it, if you want to get the general citizens' comments and feel about it. But this board, even if it passed on that referendum, you would still have to vote on it.
Okay, in reference to that. All right, any other business? No other business? Item number 6 is a board manager and clerk comments.
No comments from me, Mr. Chairman.
All right. Mr. Foy,
I have no comment.
Mr. Bond,
I have no comments.
Mr. Jones,
No comment.
Mr. Speed,
No comments.
Mr. Shriver,
No comments, Mr. Chairman.
Ms. Dickinson.
No comments.
Madam Manager. Madam Manager.
Yes, just a couple of reports and then an announcement. The Pilot Lines Park project, I want to give you an update on that. Our Parks and Rec division has been working with the Alfred Benish and Company to design a new parking lot area for the Pilot Lines Park. The new location will be behind the Lions Club and a new walkway will connect to the existing walking trail. The handicapped accessible parking will remain in its current location along the side of the ball field. Once an acceptable bid is obtained to construct the parking lot, a request to move forward with the project will be brought before the board. The funding source that's targeted for this is Rec and Lieu funds. So we look forward to bringing that project to you, and I think it will be a much improved parking situation with parking at the Pilot Lines parking lot. The second update that I'd like to share with you is the Owens Park Phase 2. We have applied for part of funding the Parks and Recreation Trust Fund application for Phase 2. We will learn on September 18th, keep your fingers crossed, if we are successful. But in this application, we have amenities that are included, a paved drive to the fishing hole and an additional parking in that area, picnic shelter with restrooms in the area near the fishing hole, an 18-hole disc golf course, 2 sand volleyball courts near the playground, and additional signage and upgrades for the 3K, 5K, and 8K trails that have been developed at the park. If awarded, the required matching funds again would be requested from the Parks and Rec and Lieu funds. We've not received part of grant for Owens Park. Instead, in the past, we were successful with the Land Water Conservation Fund and the North Carolina Wildlife Association, and of course, the generous donation by Mr. Edgar Owens. So we're hopeful that our part of application will be looked at favorably. The bookmobile bid, I'll give you an update, some work that's being done at the library. They're putting the finishing touches on the bid document for the new Franklin Voyager mobile library. The vehicle will serve as an interactive, internet-enhanced connected vehicle. The production of this vehicle is going to take about 7 or 8 months, but want to thank the board for your contributions along with donations and grant funds to make this possible. The vehicle cost $175,000, and we were able to use the majority of that funding coming from donations and grant funding. Emergency Medical Services Department, as you will recall, in this year's budget, we had demonstrated need for some new ambulances and also QRVs. We're looking at the funding that we've received through the coronavirus relief funds or the CARES Act now for salaries in this fiscal year that qualifies for reimbursement. And if we are successful in having sufficient funds to offset the salary cost, we'd like to come back to you and ask that you give consideration for us to purchase a QRV. In other words, we've already budgeted for salaries. If we have coronavirus relief funding that will pay those costs and we can free up some funds to purchase a QRV, we need that, and we'll be coming back to the board with that plan. And Jamie is monitoring the funding that's coming in. Construction progress on the emergency communications building. A couple of weeks ago, in fact, 2 weeks ago today, several staff traveled to Martin County, and we had an opportunity to tour their new emergency communications facility and to conduct an on-site meeting with the Schrader Group engineers and architects. That's the group that has been awarded the contract to build, design and build our new facility, to design our new facility. It was great to be able to see their facility and to talk with the staff there. Not only did we get some ideas in reference to our facility, but we had some ideas of what we maybe would change to be able to see that firsthand. And the folks in Martin County were very gracious, and we spent a good part of the day in Martin County. So I appreciate Christy Sharon and our architects in setting that up. And that concludes the updates, all very positive, moving forward with the board's agenda with your projects that you've approved in this year's budget. You will remember the communications building is grant funded in large part. We received a little over $3.9 million to construct that facility, and the county has set aside funding. I believe it's around $800,000, but we're real excited about the opportunity. And we actually had some folks on site today doing some field work. So, okay, Kristen, 1989. Well, Kristen's going. Okay. Let's see here.
Ms. Harris?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, would you hold off on that for a minute? Let me, I'd like to make some comments here,
Yes, sir.
if you don't mind. Kristen, can you take this down for a minute? Thank you very much. Before Ms. Harris comes back to us again, I'd like to make an announcement in reference to the Carter Regional Council of Government.
I'm sorry.
And can you hear me? Can you hear me? Okay. This is in reference to an open for business loan opportunity for small businesses that's been affected by COVID-19. Many small and local businesses in Carter region have been negatively affected by COVID-19 in an effort to provide support to those businesses. The Carter Regional Council of Governments is rolling out the Open for Business Loan Program. The loan program is designed to help small to medium-sized businesses recover from the economic effects of this pandemic. The Open for Business Loan is a non-forgivable interest-free loan ranging from $10,000 to $100,000. Eligible borrowers are small to medium-sized, 1 to 99 employees, businesses who have been in business for at least 12 months and must be located in Franklin, Granville, Person, Vance, or Warren counties. Documentation providing evidence of a loss of revenue since the start of COVID-19 pandemic is required. All loans will require personal guarantee and additional collateral. Funds can only be used for working capital and or equipment and require an application fee of $200. Standard loan terms of 5 to 10 years. And you may apply for that loan by contacting the Carter Regional Council of Government at www.cartercog.org. That's just for public information. And I want to share that with you because for what Ms. Harris has to say, I'd like to delay that as long as possible. Okay, Ms. Harris. Okay, Ms. Harris, go ahead, if you must.
Yes, sir. As a college student, my career goal was not public service. In fact, I was most sure I'd end up in banking and finance. I'm so thankful God had other plans for me. I have been privileged to serve county government in my home county since September the 11th, 1989. My supervisor, Gene Bumgarner, described me as quietly assertive. I've always been so grateful that Ms. Bumgarner and many other leaders recognize my assertiveness as a strength and encourage me to question, disagree, offer solutions or ideas. I am appreciative for a Board of Commissioners that's offered me an opportunity to serve as county manager since 2007. I cannot thank you and those who have gone on before you enough for the confidence you've placed in me. Together, we have worked through the Great Recession, a pandemic, phenomenal growth, and many other challenges. I have been blessed with great staff, and I honor the opportunity to work alongside them daily. However, I've reached the decision to retire effective November 1st, my birthday. I sincerely hope that when the citizens, staff, and our board reflects on my career, 3 things immediately come to mind. Angela always asks, what's the right thing to do? They have a lot of rules and regulations in government. What's the right thing to do? Angela practiced servant leadership. And thirdly, Angela was one to look for or see the possibilities. Those are the things I want to be remembered for. There's a scene in Lewis Carroll's book, Through the Looking Glass, where Alice laughs and says, there's no use trying. One can't believe impossible things. To which the Queen replies, I dare say you haven't had much practice. When I was your age, I always did it for half an hour a day. Well, sometimes I believed as many as 6 impossible things before breakfast. I've embraced a number of challenges, including those some may have thought were impossible. I sincerely hope your next leader will embrace both challenges and opportunities. I would be remiss if I did not acknowledge the unwavering support of my husband, William, and our children, Brad and Kristen, along with other family members. So many times over the years, my family carried on, excuse me, I'm sorry, in my absence as I was taking care of the county's business. I owe them a debt of gratitude. I stand prepared to serve this board in any manner needed to ensure a smooth transition as you embark on the hiring of the new county manager. Again, I sincerely thank you for allowing me to serve the citizens, you, and our staff. And I've got a long report, but I'm not going to go through all of it. Just hitting a few highlights of some things that I'm very proud of. I started my career at social services. This is the picture that Terry Land took of me, September the 11th, 1989. And then that other lady with gray hair, that's me today. But anyway, some things I'm very proud of that we accomplished at social services during my tenure: Safe Space, the regionalization of Smart Start, the Happy Camper program, thanks to a volunteer board, and the jobs and workforce programs, major changes in welfare to work programs. When I landed my dream job of serving as county manager, and by the way, that's exactly what I told the Social Services Board was my dream job when I was applying to be the DSS director. I had no idea they would hire me after I said that. But I did promise them 5 to 7 years if they hired me as the DSS director. And as the good Lord saw fit, I had an opportunity to come to this, to come to the county manager's office and serve as the assistant manager 6 years later. So I'm very, very thankful that I landed my dream job. And as county manager, I've presented 10 no tax increase budgets for this board. We have enjoyed a strong bond rating. We're one step away, one upgrade from being a triple rated agency by Fitch. We've set up a budget portal so that the public can provide input. I could go on and on. I'm very proud of the fact that we have refinanced our debt numerous times to save millions of dollars. And Commissioner Shriver, you're going to be glad to hear this. We are updating the software and effective January. No more pay stubs, no more paper. So we're going, yeah. In the IT arena, we prepared years ago for a wide area network for a phone system. And I could go on and on and on about the wonderful changes that Corey Floyd, our IT director, has implemented. Our data is in the cloud. We're undergoing a second revamping of our website as I speak. In education, we have no low performing schools in our county. We have fully funded schools 4 years consecutively, implemented an early college high school. We purchased land next to Lewisburg High School, and now you know what the plans are there. Triangle North Airport, millions that we have been able to bring in. I was very thankful that the chairman asked that I sit in and was a part of the mediated settlement with Carolina. We came out on top on that, and I'm very proud of that. I'm thankful for the grant funding that we used to purchase the Ann Gordon property. Sewer, the road that went in, a lot of work at the staff level was done. And I just happened to have the opportunity to work alongside those great people. We've implemented some diversion programs in our county, Stepping Up and the Community Paramedic Program. And I could talk at length about both of those, very proud. The hospital, when it closed, I became on paper and in reality, its chief administrator. I can complete a license for hospital renewal if needed. But here again, I'm very thankful that the chairman asked that I serve on a committee to negotiate with Novant, along with Boyd Sturgis, Attorney Boyd Sturgis, and Attorney Frank Kirschbaum, and the chairman, and was a part of that. I think that we had the best resolution that we possibly could. I'm grateful that in fairly short order, we were able to open up an emergency department. And now we have behavioral health for 55 and older. We also have a new 20-bed unit for those under 55. But the hospital and the restoration of healthcare was huge. Our parks, we've mentioned 2 parks tonight, Pilot Lines and the Owens Park. We have renovated the courthouse detention center, Board of Elections relocated them, working on economic development projects like KFlex, a $45 million expansion, bringing in 100 jobs. And I could just tout example after example, Richie Duncan and her team, Bo Carson. And if I start dropping names, I'll get in trouble, but really, really great work there. As you know, we acquired public utility systems from both Franklinton and Youngsville, and we have applied for all of the grant funding that was available to be able to make those improvements. Communication center, I mentioned earlier, the new 911 center, but we've done a lot of planning and planning for the future. We have a disaster preparedness plan. We've put a real emphasis on recognizing our history, and we have a constant survey of historic buildings, a historic preservation commission. This board has adopted a historic preservation ordinance. These are very near and dear to my heart, by the way. We have had not 1, but 2 classification, compensation, and benefit studies for our employees in my soon to be 13 years. It used to be, we used to have them done about once every 13 or 14. So we've had 2 for our staff. We're working on a water supply study, county facilities study, master parks and rec plan we have in place. The UDO, you just approved the contract tonight. We have a comprehensive library plan. The master layout plan for the airport will be complete next year. And we have a first ever aging plan for seniors. Have we had challenges? You better believe we have. Leading during the worst recession since the Great Depression is certainly a classic example of a challenge. COVID-19 has been one heck of a challenge. Preparing tax increase, a no tax increase budget when you're increasing your debt has been a challenge a number of years, but I did just as the board directed. We tightened the belt and the departments worked with us and we maintain strong fiscal controls. It was tough to have furloughs and reduction in force. That personally and professionally was difficult for me. Broadband, it's been, the implementation has been slowed somewhat because of COVID-19, but we're getting there. And we actually had some folks on site at Owens Park putting up equipment last week. I'd say one of the challenges was hiring a finance director. I was beginning to wonder if we would ever get one in place, but we've got a great finance director in place now, and we're certainly thankful to have Jamie. We have had some other challenges. One of the biggest ones that I see adequate water supply for the future. And that's why this board has been very serious and committed to looking at all resources that are possible before making any final decisions. And as we have to explain to our ratepayers the why the rates are what they'll be. So we're looking and are working with all possible parties to secure a long-term, sustainable and affordable supply of water. The opioid crisis is very real in our county, and that is certainly a challenge. On a positive note, we're growing and have grown substantially. I think the work that the board has done in the past and what you are focusing on now is critical for our success in handling the growth. But Franklin County is a great place to live, to work, and to play. And I'm so thankful for the opportunity to have served as your county manager since December the 12th of 2007. And I honor the work that we do. That's all I have.
Well, I can't say that I am happy to hear that, Angela. I've had the privilege of working with Angela Harris since she came back to the county in 2007. And I came on board in 2004. And one of the objectives that I had as a county commissioner was to, at some point, to try to bring Angela Harris back to Franklin County government, because I felt that Angela was the poster child for Franklin County. And I've had the great privilege and honor of working with Angela since she came back in 2007. And as far as I'm concerned, she's the hardest working county manager in North Carolina. There are no other county managers, in my professional opinion, who works in it harder than Angela. And Franklin County has been, certainly in my opinion, has been blessed to have a person like Angela Harris as its leader, who not only worked professionally, but worked because she loved the county and the people of Franklin County. And I want to thank you, Angela, personally for working with me over the past 16 years. It has been, in my opinion, a fantastic relationship. And I truly love you and the work that you have done for the county. And I want to thank you again personally for that. I will certainly admit that for me to hear that you're leaving, I feel that there's going to be a vacuum in Franklin County now with you not sitting in that chair.
It's the
And I
same
make a
chair.
motion, we deny this request.
I was gonna say, it's the same chair that I sat in on December the 12th of '07. And my staff give me a hard time about updating it. So that for the new person, he or she might want a new chair. Before-
I don't want to ask the board to accept your resignation, but I will hear your resignation.
Yes, sir.
Anyone else have any comments? All right, if there are no other comments, we will move to item number 7 on our agenda, which is the board is asked to conduct a closed session pursuant to North Carolina General Statute 143-318.11A3, attorney-client privilege. What's the pleasure of the board?
Move to approve, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Schreiber, move to approve, second by Mr. Bunn. Madam Vice Chair,
Yes.
Mr. Shriver,
Yes.
Mr. Speed,
Yes.
Mr. Jones,
Yes.
Mr. Bunn,
Yes.
Mr. Foy.
No,
The yeses have it and it is so ordered. We'll see you in the session.
what in the world do I do now?
All right. Is everybody back?
We have a quorum, Mr. Chairman.
Entertain a motion to go back in open session.
So moved.
Mr. Schreiber.
Second.
Who?
It don't matter.
Someone made the motion.
Call it, Mr. Chairman, call it.
We don't get a bonus either way, so
All in
it
favor,
doesn't matter.
by saying aye.
Aye.
Okay. There's no further business to discuss in open session. We'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second, third.
By Mr. Schreiber, third by Mr. Jones. All in favor, let it be known by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, nay. Ayes have it, it's ordered. Take care. God
All
bless.
right, good night, everybody.
Stay safe.
Yep.